Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the fourth edition of our series from the ForeFlight workshops. We've got a couple of quick housekeeping items before we get kicked off tonight here, so let's get started. There are 3 previous episodes so far. The recordings of all of these are available on the ForeFlightWorkshops.com website. Those are sort of prerequisites for tonight. If you have watched the previous episodes, you'll get a little bit more out of the program tonight. But even if you haven't watched those, you're sure to learn something new. If you are watching a recording later on socialflight.com, there will be instructions on that link on how to get your wings credit if you're watching the recording. We are going to include all features from all subscription levels. So I know this is kind of confusing sometimes if you've got the basic level subscription or even the pro level subscription. There are some features that occasionally we're going to touch on that are available only in the professional level subscription. So just bear with us. When we know that this is a feature that's only available in that top level subscription, we'll try to remember to state that so it's not too confusing for you. There's also instructions on that ForeFlightWorkshops.com website with a graph about which features are in which levels of the software. So if you ever have a question about what features are available, that's a great place to go. Let's see. Also, we're going to use both beginning subject matter and working all the way up to advanced. So if there's something you don't quite understand, plan on watching the recording, push the pause button, the rewind button, and come back and cover it. But we're going to try to go as quickly as we can through all these features and get things going. So also, let me note that future episodes, we're going to start moving into more and more IFR type features as the program continues. So in the previous episode, we planned a flight from central Michigan over to Oshkosh, Wisconsin. And so tonight we're going to take a flight, not particularly that flight. I think Brian's got another flight in store for us tonight. We got this flight planned. Now what? Let's bring on board Brian Schiff, Captain Brian Schiff. He's our main speaker driver of this series tonight. Come on in, Brian, and tell us what you've got in store for us.
Yeah, so we've planned a flight. What do we do with it now? There are all kinds of things to do once you figure out, okay, I got my route done. I've got everything set up how I want it. What now? And we'll kind of get into what things we're going to work on after we've planned our flight. We're also going to hook it up into X-Plane, look at ForeFlight in action while we're actually flying the airplane. Yeah, we'll have that.
I can hardly wait to see that.
It's kind of cool. We'll do that toward the end after we've accomplished everything we set out to do here. We will, do some more flight planning, some more advanced flight planning. We'll get into some profiles and performance stuff, weight and balance, some of that advanced stuff. We might even do some sideshows on that. But just because we're getting to this point doesn't mean we're not going to just continue on. I'd like to, at this point, also welcome Bob Mader, Chairman Emeritus of the National Association of Flight Instructors, as one of our panelists. He's done quite a bit of help. He's still out there flight instructing, in the grind, a full-time flight instructor out there using this stuff daily, and he's one of our experts panelists. And also, when we were at Oshkosh, we saw a guy walking around overheated and mumbling and drooling ForeFlight terminology and vernaculars, and I said, hey, you sound like you might know ForeFlight, and he does. He's a ForeFlight expert. James McKay, I'd like to welcome him as well. If you guys want to hop on here and say hello. If not, just shout out, and they'll be the ones answering the questions in the background. We have some great supporters, some new ones this time. We got Flying Eyes jumped in. They've given us a coupon code if you want some of their sunglasses. I've got a pair. They're great because they're flat on the side. They don't smash your head when you're wearing what do you call those headset things? A headset. So ASA is offering a backpack as well. We'll go over the giveaways. We'll have 6 giveaways to give away toward the end of the presentation as well. The wings credit after the fact, if you're watching this recording, it may be on socialflight.com. They've got a lot of educational material, and you can watch for wings credit on there as well. That's where special thanks to them for helping us out with that. And Gold Seal giving away some of their online ground schools lifetime subscriptions. So we'll be giving away a couple of those as well. Yeah, so 2 lifetime Gold Seal. You can choose private or instrument. 1 year membership to the National Association of Flight Instructors gives you a lot of great educational content, support for flight instructors, and also a lot of great information for people who are not flight instructors. It's all the same education material that pilots all need to know. Also, a lot of great discounts. And the reason I bring it up here is because if you are a member of NAFA, you get a 33% discount off ForeFlight. ASA is donating a backpack. And yes, my bullets are loading out of order. I did that on purpose. Ultimate Logbook is the ultimate pilot logbook. It's really cool. It's got all the columns you wish you had, the ones that you cross off and write in, and the endorsements that are all required. This is made by a DPE, designed by a DPE, and has everything that all the other logbooks don't have. So this is the ultimate pilot logbook. We'll be giving away one of those as well. And again, Flying Eyes will have a pair of Kestrel sunglasses. It's their Aviator. It'll be in matte black with a gradient gray lens. I got them sitting back here on my desk, and very tempted to maybe, call my name on that. But we'll be picking out names randomly. Mike will be doing that, picking random names from the queue from anybody who's still on board toward the end of this, and you must be on here to win. If you're not, we'll just call somebody else. Interestingly, my mouse is invisible on the PowerPoint picture. So one holiday programming note, Labor Day is next month. It's the first Monday of the month, and we had this issue with 4th of July, and it affected how many people could attend, and I did it anyway, and yet we got a lot of beef for that. So I'm going to push it to the second Monday in September. It will be on September 11th. Again, not the happiest day. That when we say that date, a lot of memories are conjured up, but it really is the best day for us to do this. So it'll be the second Monday in September, and there'll be emails going out to tell you and remind you about that fact as well. We'll resume the first Monday of the month in October. Here's our disclaimers in our small print. Go ahead and read that. We're not affiliated with ForeFlight. We don't receive anything from ForeFlight. We're not employees of ForeFlight. We're not even pushing the product. We're just experienced ForeFlight users sharing our knowledge and experience and giving back to industry. Not trying to make money. We're not monetizing this. It's not something where we're trying to make it fancy, and you can probably tell, so we're low budget. But the reason we're here is just to share our knowledge of ForeFlight, create a scenario where everybody can also pitch in their knowledge of ForeFlight. And believe it or not, from the Q&A, some questions that we can't answer, we can see the answers from others, from you who attend here. So these are our practices that we will recommend here. It's incumbent upon you as a pilot to ensure that you don't violate any FARs and that you maintain the highest level of safety. Most of the techniques and stuff that we show you will be along those lines. Again, I want to publish the chat and the Q&A. I'm going to work on that. It's going to take some work, but I will get that on the website eventually. Again, the wings credits on socialflight.com, their learning system, thanks to them for that. And a possible new production format. If we can get enough funding, then we may put it on a much better format. Zoom, I know there's probably a lot of you in the chat saying, hey, the video is behind the audio, or the audio is behind the video, or it's choppy. That's a Zoom thing. We've tried to fix this as much as possible. I'm recording this on my computer, and I've confirmed that that's not interfering with what's happening, but the recording comes out great. If you watch it on the video we post on YouTube after the fact, you'll see. But this is a Zoom thing, and I wish I could fix it. Also, we've started a new Facebook group. Just ForeFlight Workshops is the name of the Facebook group, a good place for us to chat and get on there. There's a great ForeFlight users group on there. I don't want to take away from that because there's so many great people and great answers on there. But just for the workshops that pertains to what we're doing, I started a group on Facebook for that. And it looks like that. We do appreciate, we're spending thousands of dollars on Zoom and equipment to bring you these free workshops. And while it's not required, we'd really appreciate if you can help defray the cost. Many of you have already, and I really do appreciate that. It's meant a lot and it's helped a lot. I just renewed the Zoom account. To have this many people on at once is pricey. And if we receive more, then our costs, we'll donate it to an aviation charity like the 99s or organizations that offer scholarships for people to get into aviation. Well, it's tough when you can't see your mouse, so I'm gonna have to put it on this screen. Sorry. So we'll start out with your questions and comments. And again, one of the biggest things that I hear, the biggest feedback that I get is please slow down. I'm going to do my best to slow down. In fact, I've got myself a nice cup of coffee. When I do something that I want you to follow up on, I'm going to stop and take a sip. So I'm going to do my best to keep it at a reasonable pace. There's a lot to cover in a short period of time, and sometimes I get excited. And if we get going too fast, if I get going too fast, please post it in the Q&A and tell one of the guys to just tell me to slow down a little bit, and I will. Or if you want me to go back and do something over again, I'm happy to do that as well. We have a lot of people. If we get a bunch of people saying the same request, we're gonna cater to that. So chat away, be social. Again, the Q&A is for us. If you have questions for us, we'll be monitoring the Q&A. The if you have a PC, the chat can easily be ignored. If you're on an Apple device or an iPad, actually, like Mike said, you have to turn off the chat yourself, otherwise the notifications can be very distracting. So Conrad H said, I use my EFB as I do a paper chart. I suggest to scan outside, the 6-pack plus instruments outside, the EFB outside, the AC electronics, then repeat. So outside is a constant practice. At the same time, either use of ForeFlight following or at least listening to the controlling ATC is helpful to understand traffic. Absolutely, I couldn't agree more. This is just one more tool that we add, we don't replace. He says the advantage of the EFB in flight is to quickly find information, but outside watch is a must. I could not agree more, and we really need to emphasize safety when talking about using ForeFlight, which is in fact a heads down device. Preston says, is there a way to put a gas stop into a flight plan so that time en route will be increased and a gas will be adjusted for additional gas used on startup and takeoff? I wish there was. It's not there yet. I know a lot of people have asked ForeFlight for that. When I asked them, they came back and said, we're working on it. So right now, no, there's not. You can put a delay, you can put a holding pattern at a fix. It doesn't really do the same thing. So unfortunately, the answer to this question right now is no. But as you've seen, every month ForeFlight adds more. So stand by.
Hey, Brian, on that subject, the technique that I use and I teach is make a separate flight. It's really quite simple. Make a flight from your original departure point to that fuel stop, and then make a separate one from there to your destination or the next fuel stop.
That's a good one. That's what I do as well. And then you can add them together. It has all the right numbers, the fuel burn and everything is accordingly. I know people want it all in one flight. They want to, and I've done the same thing when I plan a flight. Like I know I'm going to stop. I want to see the whole thing. I don't want to just see the first leg of it. So I get it. The other thing is a lot of people use the suction cups, and Jerry shared that since I'm older than dirt, and I don't know how old dirt is, but I feel older than dirt too sometimes. My recollection is not so great, but if I believed I purchased it from GoPro, I think, Jerry, you purchased these from My Go Flight. It has the word go in it, but dirt doesn't know this either. This suction cup that has a red indicator when it's getting ready to fall off. If it can tell you and turn red when it's about to fall off, why can't it just, add some more suction to itself? It doesn't do that, but that's a little pump, that little button, the big black button past the red mark there right here. That is an indicator that it's losing suction, and you just pump that back up and it suctions out again. And it's a great device. I have the same device from My Go Flight. Excellent device. Bob?
Yeah, I just wanted to say real quickly, and I promise you my image will show up instead of sectional.
Bob is a sectional of the St. Louis area.
Yeah, there you go. I don't know why the camera's not picking me up, but I don't care.
Sometimes I can see right through you too.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, just to get serious here. Regardless of, I want to buying a pivot. I like that personally. My Go Flight makes really good stuff, but whatever you do, with all the instructing I've done, I used to keep my iPad on my lap, and I found myself looking down all the time and not seeing traffic. Or I do see the traffic, but you know what I'm getting at. It's a real distraction.
Yeah.
If you can mount the thing so it's somewhere in the same area as a dead spot in your panel, put it up near that eye line where you're glancing anyway. That's a really good idea. Mounting your iPad is a huge safety plus. It'll help you with your scan, and it's one less thing that you're worried about dropping on the floor of the cockpit.
Yeah, I would agree. And the pivot that you referred to, I'm going to go full screen camera here and show it. It's got this suction device and then a square, and then this slides onto it like that, and then you just push this blue button to take it off. It holds solid, and it's also got a leg mount like this. And we've got a discount code on our website as well for the pivot case. I've tried many different cases. This is the one I seem to be sticking with a little bit more. I haven't stopped using it because it works well. It's really easy to snap it onto your leg and then pick it up if you need as well. And the suction cup works really good as well. So getting back to this, let's see, we've got Andrew says the performance profiles for the aircraft that I fly, PA 28, 151, 61, and 181, so Warriors and Archers, come with default descent performance that is based on descending at 2,500 RPM and 126 knots. However, I much prefer a reduced power descent at 95 knots. Can you review the proper method for revising or creating an alternate or performance profile for a low speed and RPM? So technically, most people, I guess, is why ForeFlight does this. It shows you that whatever your cruise performance is, it kind of keeps it there for descent. You just give a rate of descent for the descent timing. The only thing I could think of here would be to change your, calculate a top of descent point. I have not seen, if anybody else knows of a way to do this, let me know. But calculate your top of descent point, then change your airspeed en route to 95 knots and from that point on, and then kind of go from there. But I don't know many people that do that. So he said he's tried messing with the bias settings, and it seems like manually adjusting the time and fuel burn. He'd rather just adjust the RPM and airspeed than have ForeFlight calculate the correct ground speed. So I get that. Everybody wants to do it differently, and it does seem to default to your cruise power and speeds and fuel burn. Even, I shouldn't say speed, but fuel burn and RPM. So yeah, it's I don't know of a way to do that at this point other than adjusting the bias or changing your airspeed on that leg. But we'll look into it, and when we do a session on the performance plans and profiles, and we're going to cover that in depth later, then we'll dig deep into that one. Al S says, is there a way to display this data on a map somewhere? So we get these GPS warnings. The GPS is not going to work from, if you're at 4,000 feet, a 256 nautical mile radius at 4,000 feet from a point centered at the El Paso 83-degree radial at 70 miles. And this is from flight level 400 unlimited. It's unlimited radius. So if you're above 40, you won't have GPS. This is a good question, and I have a method on my website for putting a circle around a point. Right now, it doesn't have the FMS-like feature where you can choose a fix and put a radius around it. ForeFlight doesn't have that as of yet. So there's no way to do that easily, but if you wanted to beforehand, I'll put the website up here. I know that if we go down here to the links and tools and scroll down to, I think I've got the 50-mile radius here, the 15-mile ring, you can click here and then download it and basically copy and paste that into ForeFlight. Now you can change the fix on every one of these. You can do a copy and replace in Word and then change the radial and the distance on each of these. Leave the radials, but change the distance. So this would be a 50-mile radius around the KFZY airport. So that's the only way I know of to do it, and you can go play with that. There's a link to that on the website as well. Otherwise, this feature is not there yet either. You guys are asking great questions, and I wish we had ways to do these things. We all want to. Maybe ForeFlight will add that later. So Doug says, is there a way to stop the track log in ForeFlight and restart it, but make it as one trip? So you take off and land somewhere, you eat lunch or let the wife go shopping. Now let's, as far as letting the wife go shopping, what if it's the husband going shopping? My wife wouldn't let me go shopping because I spend more than her. But anyway, yeah, the answer here is and it's a relatively new feature in ForeFlight, is that you can, like if you wanted to do this for the logbook or something, you can put together all of the track logs that have been added you can tell it to not stop tracking you for 2 hours after you land, and then the thing is, it's going to record everywhere you go in the airport, and you're going to have this little, everywhere you walk, everywhere you go in town. The preferred method, and what ForeFlight does now, is that you take those 2 track logs, you can merge them. This happened last May. It came out. The feature was the most requested logging feature, and we've done that. So that's the way to do it, is to merge track logs now, and we can go over that when we talk about logbooks later as well. Mike G said, when creating and modifying flights and their associated flight plans, can you start to accumulate a proliferation of these entities? Yes, you do. I quickly ended up with many flights with the same departure and destination and began to have difficulty knowing which were which. I get that. So that's under the recents. The answer here is to go to favorites. So his question is, do you have any tips on how to identify variants of flights and flight plans and manage them to avoid confusion? So if I just go to my iPad real quickly here, you can go to flights. And I'm sorry, if we look at the flight plans, I think is what he was talking about. And we look up here, the recents and history. If we're on recents, you're going to see all these in there, and it's crazy. But if you get one that you like and you want to come back to it later, save it as a favorite. And those are going to be in here. And then to manage them, the only way I know is, to actually take it and slide to the left. Can't do it with this mouse trackpad. Well, I just loaded that one. Let's go back here, go back down here. I'll use my finger, but right here, I'm going to swipe this I'll take this one here, swipe this to the left like that, and you can delete it. And you can go through and do that. You can also tap on the edit button up here and take one and delete it like that. So you can manage your favorites. You can also do that in the recents. You can clear your recents every now and then. But I like it because it's the best way to undo what you've done. You can go back to different versions of some of the things that you've done as well. So it takes a little management. The answer is to use the favorites. The Hal says, wondering if it would be possible to have notice of what the next workshop will be covering ahead of time, just a brief idea so that participants could work on the subject area ahead of the session. Yes, that's a great idea. I'm going to take that and run with it. So I'm going to be sure to put in the email that Zoom automatically sends out 1 week prior. I will put in what the next webinar is going to be, what we're going to cover. I actually got this message. I didn't get it in time to do that this time, but I did put in the message that went out 1 hour prior to the Zoom, hey, here's the flight plan, load it up in your iPad. And I don't know how many of you saw it, but that's what we're going to do today, is look at the flight plan that I sent out in the 1 hour prior email. But yes, Hal, I will give some advance notice. Best thing I can say is keep an eye on my the website, foreflightworkshops.com, and there's a section called the next workshop, which I've been neglecting. I will keep that active, and we'll talk about what we're doing on the next one. Again, the plans, basic, pro, and performance with the prices. And of course, if you want Jeppesen, it adds another 200 to that. And I may refer to some charts. You're going to see those. I'm just showing you these. The discount, if you're a NAFI member, getting 33% off is obviously, and I'm not trying to sell this. I'm just telling you how to save money. You can join NAFI with a S49 coupon code for this ForeFlight workshop. So $49 to join, and you can see how much you can save, especially if you buy the performance plan. And that's not the only reason to join NAFI. We have a lot of other content. iPad and iOS check. Again, there's this website, iPad Pilot News, has a great source to show which of your devices and software EFBs are compatible with the latest iOS. And as you can see, ForeFlight Mobile is compatible with the iOS and iPad OS 16.6. So that's a really handy tool. What's new in ForeFlight? Again, every month we get what's new, and this month we got a ForeFlight on the Apple Watch. I do have an Apple Watch, and I started playing with this, and it's really cool. So basically it says you can get local weather and complement your pre-flight planning and so on. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a second, but what happens is you open up ForeFlight and it gives you this hey, you want to learn more, or have you got it? Well, no, I want to learn more, but right now I open ForeFlight because I want to use it. So last month I showed you one way to save it and look at it later. Here's another way that I will often do that I didn't mention last month. But so you click on the learn more. Go ahead and take it for now. We're going to work on ForeFlight here because that's why we opened it. We have something we want to do. But go ahead and tap on the learn more, and it's going to open a website. ForeFlight 15.7 now available. And here is the page that tells you all about it. When you get that, just tap on the send to button up there by the web page, and the send to thing is going to open up here. Then tap on mail. And this is what I do. There's a number of ways you can do this. I just want to save that link so I can go look at this later. So I tap on the send to, then I tap on mail after tapping on, see what's new. And then it opens up an email, and I'm going to send an email to myself, and you can see it's got the link in there. And then it goes into my email inbox, and I can watch that later when I want to, not when I'm trying to use ForeFlight. And there's a copy of what that email looks like that you will receive from yourself. Just another way to keep track of that. So what's new? Well, we got this Apple Watch feature, and it's really kind of cool. You can convenience the experience there, and you can look at weather, NOTAMs, and it says much more. I haven't found a whole lot more other than the weather, NOTAMs, and nearby airport details. Like you can't look at your flight plan, you can't look at a map and all that kind of stuff, but it's mostly weather, runway information, and NOTAMs, and a lot more. It's actually it's got some pretty cool features. The synthetic vision has been enhanced so that the 3D obstacles with nighttime lighting give you a realistic depiction, and also you'll see the colors on there for when they stick up into the yellow or the red. But it has a nighttime feature, which is kind of cool. Again, that's if you have the right subscription plan. Also, the profile used to show you the first strike only, and really it's kind of realistic. I guess if you hit the mountain, you're not going to hit it again, but it's showing you all the points that intersect your altitude basically, and it will show more than one now. It'll show these red hatches, and it reduces the visual clutter. And again, this is the Pro Plus plan and above, so the Pro and the performance plans. The other thing that's new is a runway analysis support, and it's basically, it's the corporate jets. They're catering to the people with the money first, the people who actually really need and are required to do the runway analysis of the jets. I would think and hope that eventually we're going to have this kind of performance data for small aircraft as well. I think that's a repeat. So back to the Apple Watch, here are the kind of things that you can see on there. You can see the weather, local weather. It's showing you where you are, your position. Then it's going to show you your favorite airports. It can show you, again, it's using your current location to give you that. It can give you the AWOS frequency, and it's showing you, like, for example, at Charleston Executive, there's the elevation, it's VFR, and there's the AWOS. There's the wind is out of the east at 8 knots. It's a good depiction. Your favorite airports are listed there, and then you can tap on it and you get frequencies, weather, and runways. It says much more. I know the NOTAMs are on there. I don't know what more there is. I haven't played with it a whole lot yet, but that's the basics of what you can see on there. Frequencies are handy and very easy to read, so it can keep you from having to go off your map or something on the iPad. I give you the runway information, the favored runways, the headwind and crosswind components, and of course the NOTAMs, like I'd mentioned. You can also make the faces, they have some custom faces that you can put on, so it'll give you the weather and other information right there on the customized face. The latest version is 15.7 that came out last month, and that's I don't know why I've got these in here again. There you can see the multiple strike points. It doesn't have all the hash marks. It's less cluttered. I want to emphasize safety. We talked about it before. One of our viewers even wrote in, and I read his email. Please don't stare at your iPad for more than very long. It's if you're planning on the ground, that's one thing, but in flight, it's just one more instrument in your scan. Don't stop looking out the window. Don't drop the airplane to fly the iPad. Very important. I just want to emphasize that. So let's get to it. Today, I want to talk about flying, and if you saw it in the 1 hour prior email, great. If not, I apologize, and I will try and get this out more in advance, but we'll do it together. We're going to fly from Van Nuys to SPZ, and it escapes me every time I say that. That's Silver Springs, California, or Nevada, actually. It's near Reno. So we're going to do this flight plan, and we'll do it on the iPad. But why fly next to mountain range like this? You know, if you go direct, let's see if I go back here. No, that's not the direct line. The flight plan that we're going to talk about has us right up against the edge of the mountains here. Why would you fly right next to the mountains like that? Some people say, why wouldn't you go up the center of the valley? Well, the answer is performance, because if you think about it, the prevailing westerly winds are going to be blowing that way, and they're going upslope, and that will require less power to maintain altitude, and you can save a lot of fuel. Just one little piece of advice. So we're going to be departing Van Nuys, and we'll put the route in there together, but I want to kind of PowerPoint a little bit talking about setting up our departure here before we do that. So we're departing Van Nuys, and airplanes don't just take off and fly the heading on course, right? We're going to fly some kind of departure path. And how do we know what path we're going to fly? Well, this would probably be a right downwind departure and on course. But if you are not familiar with this airport and it's somewhere that you don't normally go, and you started your turn at the wrong time, I'm just going to tell you right now, there's a little conflict here with Burbank Airport, runway 8. The final approach is coming in right here. And if you make your right crosswind turn, right up the final approach for Burbank runway 8. So always, always, always consult the airport facility directory in the chart supplement. And here you see it says runway 16 right, no turns before the flood basin. And if we go back to the chart and look, well, here's the flood basin, and it's even got a VFR checkpoint that we can look at, that we can use in our navigation aid. So on iPad, we can put that there, but we're probably not going to fly to that point. So we could probably just maybe go to the far end of the flood basin. That's definitely not before it. And there's a freeway here that maybe we could follow and fly our crosswind on. And so let's just pick that. And we're going to go out to this other point here and then head up to our first fix of Silex. And this is along an airway here, which is why I chose this. But we got this Burbank Class Charlie airspace. So we're going to climb up into that. We got a little conflict there. But also, if we fly this route right here, and I think I need to learn to use the annotate tool. So if we fly this route, where are we going to be when we fly upwind here and crosswind and downwind? Well, we got the final for Burbank here. We're going to cross the final approach to Burbank at some point while we're climbing out. You can even see the big airplane here on the sectional giving us a hint about some kind of activity on our flight. Well, if you do a measurement here, we're going to cross the Burbank runway 8 final approach, crosses our blue line at about 10.1 miles, so about 10 miles out. Well, what altitude are the jets going to be at 10 miles out? And this is just the kind of thinking that I recommend that you do when you're planning how to get out of an airport. It's not the cruise phase that, you know, mid-air collisions happen. It's near airports, and this is the most common place for it to happen. And this is kind of a little bit of a setup here. So as a prudent pilot, I would look at this. How can I tell how high the jets are going to be 10 miles out? We can use the 3-to-1 rule, and that's pretty accurate. So if we consider 3 miles for every 1,000 feet, they're going to be just over 3,000 feet right here. And that's a good rule. But we have ForeFlight. We can also look at the procedure. Where are the airliners on a 10-mile final? Well, let's take a look at the procedure that they use. For free are the government charts. So I have a Jeppesen one here, so it may look a little bit different from yours. And this is about a 10-mile final. If you add up from the runway here, we got 5.2 and 0.9 and 6, and that's about a 12-mile final right here at Silex, which is actually one of the fixes on this flight plan that we're going to do. So when we cross right here, they have to be at 3,700 feet approaching Silex. They'll be descending to 3,000 feet after that. So right here at our 10-mile point, the airliners will be starting their descent or on their way down from 3,700 feet to 3,000. They might likely be higher than that, but if they are, now you got their wake to worry about. So why not cross Silex at an altitude way below where we know they will be. So we can see they can't be below 3,700 feet at Silex, and then they're going to start down. So why don't we come back out here? Here's Silex. It's even on the VFR chart. So let's just take this. There's a beautiful freeway intersection right here. Why don't we move our crosswind to that intersection, because we're VFR. We can see that real easy. And then to our next point, which is Gorman up here, which don't worry, we're going to get into it together on the iPad. But take my word for it, the next fix up here is Gorman, VOR. And that takes us right over Silex. And let's cross Silex below 3,700 feet. We've also got the 3,000-foot shelf here of the Class Charlie airspace. So what we do here to do that is we tap on Silex and then add it to the route. And now we've got Silex as a fix. So we've done that. We can edit the flight plan. We can tap on Silex and then tap on More on the right menu. And then tap on Set Altitude, Speed, Time. And that's what we can get a point where we can set cross at 2,500 feet. At this point, we're going to start a climb. I found that when I set my cruise altitude of 10,500 feet for this flight, but I tried to cross Silex at 2,500, my profile went away. So I contacted ForeFlight. I said, why is this happening? And they said, the profile altitudes, these crossing altitudes, won't work until you've reached your cruise altitude. So for now, while ForeFlight's working this way, we need to tease it and say, okay, we're going to cruise at 2,500 feet. So we're only going to climb to 2,500 feet. But then at Silex, what this button here means is we're going to start a climb. And we're going to start a climb to 10,500 feet. So we tap Start At, and that means start climbing at Silex to an altitude of 10,500 feet, what we'll put in there. And then if we go to look at our profile, we'll see that, and you can see it's on the chart there as a reminder that we're going to start a climb to 10,500, not cross at 10,500. That'd be pretty good if you could climb that fast. But just as a quick aside, another way to get to that is when you're editing your flight plan, you can tap on Silex, then you can tap on Set Altitude, then you get the window here for Start At, and then put your altitude in. But if you look at the profile, you can see this little step here, and I'll zoom in, that goes 2,500 feet for the initial cruise altitude. And that's what we have as our cruise altitude. And you can see the white dashed line. But then we start a climb at Silex, which is right here, right at this triangle, to 10,500 feet. And that's the way to maybe remind us to do that and to stay underneath the jets when we're departing an airport like that. So don't just consider the traffic at your airport, consider the traffic going into another airport nearby, especially if they're airliner type traffic. And in Burbank does have a constant flow of traffic into it, and generally they land on that runway 8 quite a bit. I was watching the ADS-B live on my iPad, and I did see a conflict happening here. This 3,100 foot traffic was a departure from Van Nuys that pretty much followed the route. You turned just before the freeway, right at about the flood basin, and there was an inbound SkyWest just descending out of 4 at that time. But watching it happen, it was a little closer than you'd want to see. And if I would venture to wager that if you kept watching this for a prolonged period, you might see some pretty interesting close calls. So with that, let's go to the iPad. Our flight is planned. So now what do we do? I'm going to go to the iPad here. And if I put in a direct route from Van Nuys to I'm never going to get it. If I click back on the Silver Springs iPad from Van Nuys to Silver Springs, Nevada, and we look at the full route, you can see, well, that takes us over the mountains there. Well, I sent out a route that I'd liked everybody to use in the 1 hour prior, but don't worry if you didn't get that. We're going to go ahead and put it in here now. And so for the sake of tonight, to get a route in there pretty quickly, let's go to the Route Advisor, which is right here on the iPad. And I'm going to go ahead and take the distraction of my camera off. That way I can make funny faces at myself. So tap on the Route Advisor, which is routes, And the first and only recommended route right here has the Canoga 3, Gorman, blah, 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 all those fixes. Tap on that and then select route. You're going to get a warning that says update planned altitude. Just ignore that for now. It's a good advisor for when you're flying. It thinks we're going IFR. So just for now, ignore that. But that'll get us the route in there. Which runway for the Canoga 3? Let's select 16 right. Now, since we're not IFR, I want to take that Canoga 3 departure out. So it's right here. We just want to go to the first fix. So and I want it to be Gorman. So I'm going to take this fix, tap it, hold it, and just drag it off the map and let go, and it trashes it. But I wanted Gorman in there. So after Van Nuys, I want the first fix to be Gorman. So insert after Van Nuys, GMN. Wrong keyboard. And then tap insert. And then I want one more fix before that is Silex. So we'll tap Gorman and insert before Gorman, Silex, SILEX. And insert it. And you can see down here, we've got Silex. Now, from this point, we can drag our route to the freeway. I'm going to zoom in a little bit more here. Missed it. Close that. I'm going to drag the route to the first freeway, kind of line it up with the runway. Boy, this is not easy with this mouse. Forgive me. Maybe if I close this. Straight out along the runway center line to the freeway, release it there, then tap on the lat long location that ends up on the top of the list, adds that fix. Then I want to add this freeway intersection right here. So I'm going to drag my route to that freeway intersection, drop it, and select the first one lat long on the list. That may be a little tough to put into your in-panel device if you don't have a way for ForeFlight to communicate with it, but nevertheless, that's what that will do. We'll fly that on the iPad. We're going to be visual looking out the window following these freeways anyway. So we've got Silex here. If we go to our flight plan, what I want everybody to have is an airplane. I'm going to choose the Skylane here. You can choose your airplane. I'm going to choose just a normal profile. And we're going to choose 2,500 feet. So we're going to be VFR on the altitude advisor. And is this route westerly? Is it easterly? Well, I'll take for granted for it's westerly right now, but we'll take a look at that in a second. But notice 2,500 feet doesn't show up here. So I'm going to select on all altitudes, and we still don't have 2,500 feet. So I'm just going to type it in right here where I can select whatever altitude I want. 2500. And for the sake of fooling ForeFlight, we're going to just pretend that's our cruise altitude at this point. 2,500. Close it. We're going to put our departure time for 6 p.m. Eastern time. Let's make it 6:30. I'm sorry, Pacific time. Let's make it 6:30. And I want everybody to do this because we're actually going to file this and see what kind of warnings and advisories and notices that we get. So today at 6:30 p.m. Pacific, and that's an hour, 45 minutes or so from now. So we'll just close that. So we got 6:30, and I've got this kind of how I want it. And I'm going to go ahead and look at the full route just to make sure. So I'll zoom to route with the zoom to route button. And if I look at this initial course and I tap on any one of these legs, it shows me the course. The magnetic course is 342. That's westerly. Up here, that's westerly. I tap on that course. I can see that too is a 319 degrees magnetic course. And we go by magnetic course. We don't consider the heading because two aircraft can be crabbing into the wind on north-south and both be thinking they're westbound. So it's magnetic course that we go by. Now, when we pass this Hotel November Whiskey VOR, we click on this leg right here, and we can see that that course is 26 degrees magnetic, we're going to have to make an altitude change there. So at this point, we could say, okay, I'm going to tap on, I think it's Honeywell VOR, or Hangtown VOR, and then I'm going to select more and set altitude. At that point, I want to start climbing. I don't want to cross it. I want to start climbing. And at this point, we'll just put 11,500 feet, and we'll start a climb to 11,500 feet at that point. So I've got this how I want it. Yes, I have 2,500 feet in here for now, and no, we're not going to file that as our cruise altitude, but I wanted the profile to work. So you can see here that this is obviously not going to work because we're going to be too low for a lot of the terrain looking at the profile. But what I wanted it to do was show us crossing Silex after we get out of underneath the Class Charlie airspace at 2,500 feet here. And just to show you what I'm talking about, if we change our cruise altitude, I'm going to go to Edit on the navigation planner, and I change the cruise altitude here to VFR, we'll say 10,500 feet, and I select that, and I go back to the profile. Yes, this works. It goes to 10,500 feet, but we don't get our crossing altitude at Silex. And either way, that's fine. I just wanted you to be aware of why when your profile disappears, that's why. But here is realistically what we're going to do, except we're going to cross Silex down low. This is the route that we're going to fly. That's the profile it will be. This kind of has us clipping the Burbank Class Charlie airspace, barely. But if we cross Silex down at 2,500 feet, that won't be an issue either. So we've got this flight plan. What do we do with it? Well, let's send it. We use the send to button right here. It's this square with an arrow coming out of it. So I'm going to give everybody a chance to come up to that point. You've got your flight plan how you want it. You've looked at it. Don't worry about a lot of the details because we're just going to go ahead and file a flight plan. So I'm going to send to, and we want to send it to flights. We can mail it to ourselves. We can send it to our logbook. We could print it. There's all kinds of things that we can do here, but I'm going to send it to flights. And then it opens up the flights tab automatically. You can see the tab that we're in is flights. And here we've got this flight plan, Van Nuys to Silver Springs, Nevada, with everything that we put in there. So the first thing we can look at, now there's 4 tabs up top here, and I want to talk about those. So the first one is nav log. So here's a navigation log for this flight. Very handy. You can send this to somebody else that you're communicating with. You can send it in messages or mail, or you can actually send it to, I don't see books here, but you can use Apple Books. I can say more and look down here for books. I probably passed it. No, I don't see it. Of course I don't. Why would I? Oh, there it is, books. So I can send it to books, and it'll create a PDF of that navigation log and open it in books. Although right now there's a glitch causing books to crash when you do that. But when that glitch gets fixed, this will be a really cool feature. It also shows you, you'll notice if you're doing a GPS approach that the RAIM has no outages predicted, and that's a good thing to have if you plan on shooting a GPS approach with WAAS. So there's our navigation log. Here are some other altitudes. You can see we got 4,000 feet, 6,000 feet, 8,000. It shows you the headwind component, tailwind component, the temperature at these different altitudes. And then also down here, we've got our flight plan information, the performance information, our fuel and weights, and we've got our out, off, on, and in times that we can write down here for logbook purposes. I like this. Sign this and put it in a binder, and you've got a logbook entry. Also at the bottom of this, you have FBO information and airport diagrams. I think it's a wonderful thing to print just as a backup. If your iPad overheats, you've got everything that you've planned right there. So that said, I'm going to close that, take a sip of coffee, and we're going to go to briefing. And we did a little bit of this on the last flight. So it's retrieving the briefing. And while it's doing that, you guys got anything for me? Questions, additions?
Brian, just one comment I'd like to make.
Sure.
I have my students, for what you just said, print out the nav log as a just in case. And the other thing I like to do, me personally, is I actually save it as a document in ForeFlight, so I'm not jumping apps. And using an Apple Pencil, I do all the actual times en route as the how goes it.
Yeah, so that you have a slot here for actual fuel remaining and actual time crossing these fixes, and that's what Bob's talking about for the how goes it, that we used to use nav logs, but this is in itself a nav log, and you can kind of see how you're really doing compared to how you planned on doing. I like that idea. Putting it in another app enables you to use a split screen. I do this at work, so you can see up here there's the 3 dots. And so Bob said you're not jumping apps, which that's a good point. You can go to save it in ForeFlights and put it in your documents. But I like to do it in books, and then I can hit a split view. And so what other apps do you want? I want books, and there's the books. There's some of my favorite author there. And you can adjust the size of this, and ForeFlight on one side, another app, which is books on this side. If I go to my library, there's the nav log, and see if it'll open without crashing. First, I'm going to resize this, and nope, it's still crashing. So there's a case for doing it within ForeFlight. So I'm guessing you go to send to and save to ForeFlight documents like that. Success, it's saved to ForeFlight documents. Then you go to documents, and it's in where would it be, Bob? I haven't done this before. ForeFlight.
My docs. No, it'd be in my docs.
My docs.
Yeah.
Right here. And is it like the last one saved, or is it?
Yeah.
No, alphabetical order.
Might be in
Yeah.
I'm gonna ask. Might be in ForeFlight.
In ForeFlight, it said ForeFlight documents. So sorry for hunting and learning it as we go here. I don't normally do it this way.
Yeah,
well, we'll have to find that and get back to that. If anybody finds it in the meantime, let us know.
Look under imported, then we can stop.
Imported, and then we'll stop. So it might be this one here. Nope, that's February 19.
Yeah. No. Anyway.
Yeah. No, there it is. Navlog right here. It's on imported. My drive's imported, and there's the navlog. Yeah. And so now you can cycle between your map and your documents, and you can turn on your annotation and use your Apple Pencil and write in there just like Bob said. I have a highlighter. It's all a
style thing, however people want to do it.
Exactly. So we'll go back to flights, actually. There's the plates. Where's maps? Flights. There it is. Okay, so I'm going to go back out of the navlog, and we'll show you the briefing, which we downloaded. Before I go through this, there's also a way to save the briefing. You can get it in a PDF format. This is kind of like a web format, and it is saved on your iPad, and you can scroll through it. You can see down here it says next mountain obscuration airmits. So these are the IFR airmits. Here's mountain obscuration airmits. Next is turbulence. There's the turbulence and where your route is. It shows you your route in purple, and so you can see that we do intersect the turbulence, but what's the altitude of it? Well, here it is, severe moderate turbulence between 28,000 and 40,000. I don't have to worry about that in my 182, so that's going to be high altitude stuff. So you can scroll through, and I don't want to go through all of it right now, but this is basically the briefing in the HTML format. To save it as a PDF, you go to More, Settings, and again, I don't know where settings are, but I know how to find them. So I'm going to search the filter. I'm going to start typing briefing, and there it is, briefing format. So I'm going to select that. Right now you can see I've got graphical or HTML. It looks like a website, or graphical PDF. So I'm going to change it to graphical PDF. Go back out of settings and I'm just going to close these. Now go back to briefing. Notice it's still in the HTML format, but if we refresh it with this button down here, the refresh button, we'll give it a second. Now it's in the PDF format. It's still graphical images. It looks a little bit different. These are the winds aloft on your profile. Remember, we're going to 10.5, and then at HNWVOR, we're climbing up to 11.5, and it shows you the winds there. There's from the top view with the winds aloft and so on. This is a whole briefing, and I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but I'm showing it to you, and then I'm showing you can send it to. Again, you can send it if you use Goodreader. That's a PDF reader. You can send it to Adobe. You can email it to somebody. We can save to flight files. I'm not sure what that is, but we can save it to ForeFlight documents. So let's do that while we're here. And then we can go, our briefing is right there. We can go back to it anytime we want. We don't even need to be online. Let me get out of our navlog. And under imported, we should see, it's probably a B for briefing, Van Nuys to Silver Springs right here. And there it is on board as a document that we can scroll through. You can also email that to somebody. While you're looking here, you can send to and tap on email. You can also print it. Okay, so enough on the briefing. Let's go back to flights. We're approaching our 1 hour mark, so I'm going to take a short break, and then we're gonna actually see what we can do with this thing in the air when we fly and what ForeFlight looks like. So let's back out of here. And the other thing is files. You can add files to a specific flight, and I found this to be handy because maybe I want to add the weight and balance for this airplane to this flight and have it right here. Again, this is a performance plan, so if you don't have the performance plan, then you're not going to have this. So you tap on files. There's none there, but we tap on plus to add a file, and I'm going to look in files. You could add your navlog right here because it's in ForeFlight documents, but I'm going to go to files. I want to find my weight and balance. It's in my iCloud Drive. I know I put it on my desktop, and let's see. Features, maybe I don't see it. I did save the ATIS as a screenshot when I got an email of the Van Nuys ATIS, so I can add that, and I can click on it and see it. This was a text that I got. I took a screenshot, and I want to go ahead and file this flight plan so we can see what kind of notices you're going to get from ForeFlight. By the way, if we add, there's one more document I can add here because I can just feel everybody thinking about it. Let's go to iCloud Drive, and then my desktop and the ForeFlight features. I'm going to add that to this flight plan, and let's take a look at it. Well, lo and behold, files and flights right here. You can see which plan you need. You need the performance plan. So sorry about that. You can see that the Basic Plus it's just that. It's a basic plan. Pro adds the profile view, the hazard alerts, an advisor, cloud documents, breadcrumbs, all the fun things that we're talking about. So if you only have the Basic Plus, I apologize for talking about things that you don't have, but there's not much more to talk about other than the basic flight planning. So we'll close this. I want to go to File the Flight Plan, because then we're going to see some messages show up here where it says New Messages. So if we gotten too long to file, well, it's a half hour from now. I think we chose a departure time of 6:30 Pacific time. That's a half hour from now, and that's fine. And so we'll make sure that the rest of the flight plan looks good. The route.
But you currently have it as IFR, Brian.
Do I? Well, we'll fix
Yes.
that. Good catch. Flight rules IFR. Change it to VFR, and that will keep me out of the Air Route Traffic Control Center system and keep me out of trouble here when nobody picks up that flight plan. Not that I'd get in trouble, but a clearance would show up at Van Nuys Tower. So most of this looks good. I'm just going to go ahead and file it. So you can follow along. It's not going to hurt to file a flight plan that doesn't get opened. So go ahead and make sure it's ICAO, it's VFR. There's another chance for me to have caught that. equipment type, it's G8, general aviation is the flight type, aircraft, this all looks good, true airspeed. It's a little optimistic, but maybe we'll get 141 knots. One aircraft in my fleet, we're departing Van Nuys at 6:30 p.m. I'm running late, maybe I'll change this to 6:40 p.m. So you have several opportunities to change this before you pull the trigger. And of course you can amend it. I'm going to show you that too. So cruising altitude is 10.5. That's our initial cruise. So I'm going to put that, time en route, and so on. There's all my information. And we will just hit on file. Are you ready to file? Departing 35 minutes from now. Read that. It's a good backup, because what if it said 1 day and 35 minutes from now? Then that would be a good catch. So I just clicked it and we're filing the flight plan. Once we file the flight plan, filing error, invalid speed and or altitude transition. So at the VOR there, it's got a /F115. That's flight level 115. It doesn't like that. So let's fix that. Let me go back and close this. Let's look at our route up here, and you can see, yep, it put it right there because I put that climate. So I don't know why it doesn't like that, but I'm going to delete that so we don't have the altitude change there. And maybe that'll fix our problem. So proceed to file. Flight plan changed. Plan tab is out of sync with filing information. So I made a change here that is not on my plan. Go ahead and copy it. I can change it later, or I can hit ignore. I'm going to say ignore because I want my plan to stay the same. And hit file. Are you sure? Yes, file. So now it's attempting to file again. Hopefully I fixed the problem with that altitude change at HNW. Invalid speed or altitude, it's still there. It doesn't like it. Okay. And this is why we're doing this. This is why it's a workshop. So I took it off of here. I don't see it on the route that I'm filing. Well, just for fun, let's take it off of the map here. I'm going to take this off, set altitude, speed, time, and just take this off. I don't know why this would be causing a problem. So this 11.5, I'll just delete that and go back to flights. Try and file it again. And if anybody has any thoughts if this doesn't work, I'm not quite sure why this isn't working. James, got anything on me on that?
Let me see if I can duplicate it.
There's a
while
bunch
we're
of
on the
people
break.
saying you need to click copy instead of ignore.
On the, well,
Not
wait.
sure.
I
I was
didn't get the
answering a
option
different
again.
question, so.
If I hit file, I don't get the option to copy it again.
Yeah, because you pulled it out. I have a feeling this is a glitch.
Well, it may be.
That's
Usually when I
remembering.
think it's a glitch, it's a user error. But see, it
Invalid
says altitude transitions. It doesn't like that. So I'll tell you what. Let's just
go back to your route and see.
I'm going to go back to the route and send it to flights again and see what happens. So I'm going to go to maps, and I'm going to send to flights. I got the altitude 10.5 with no altitude change. So let's send this to flights. Send to flights. So this one had the problem. Now we got a new one up here. And let's make sure we're VFR again. Our departure time, I might change that. Everything else is going to stay the same. Because of all my errors, my departure time is changing. I must have blown past it. Right here. We'll just change this to 6:45 p.m. Close it. File it. See what happens here. 36 minutes from now. Yeah, again.
Does your Citabria really do 141 knots?
This is a 182.
Okay. It's an
all right.
optimistic 182.
Yeah. All right. So now that we've got it filed, you can see we have more options here. Cancel, amend, and activate. So we can amend it if we have a change in any of the the parameters here. And so Mike said, can you really get that kind of speed? If I hit amend, I can say, no, he's right. Well, 141 knots is a little optimistic. I'm going to make it 140. That's probably more realistic. And then file the changes, click on amend, and I think I clicked outside. And then it will update it, and you'll get that amended. Okay, it's filed. I want to leave it like that for a little bit because we're going to start to see some new messages come in here. That's where I got the ATIS. If you have the performance plan, you'll get the ATIS. If you filed the flight plan, you'll get, if you filed IFR and it's an airport like Van Nuys, you will get a PDC. You can see the departure clearance. It says PDC here. So that you'll get that. And if Mike shared with me that he filed an IFR flight plan using his airplane, you need to have your airplane tied to it. So to your ForeFlight account. My airplane is not IFR, so I can't use that feature, but Mike's is, and he sent me a picture of it. It does work. You most of the time you will get your PDC. So we are an hour and 9 minutes into it. I would like to, at this time, go ahead and take a short break, and then we will come back in 5 minutes, and we'll actually take this thing into the air and see what ForeFlight looks like when we do that.
And Brian, you've already got something up there. We had a request to leave the nav log up during the break, but
I can do that.
Having your timer up, whatever you prefer.
No, if someone wants to see that, let's do that. We'll just be back in 5 minutes. So the nav log.
Yeah.
This.
Yeah.
Is that good enough? Scroll down. Up.
Works
down.
for me.
Okay.
Hope it works for him.
All right, we'll leave it there, and we'll be back in 5 minutes. We're going to jump into X-plane and the iPad take it in flight. All right, welcome back. Right now, I'd like to take this opportunity we're going to hook up to X-Plane Flight Simulator. You can also hook it up to MS Flight
Don't
Simulator.
forget to turn your mic on, Brian.
You know, Mike and Brian.
I've never done that before.
Why is it so difficult? You know, so many people do that, and then I judge them. Like, come on, is it that hard to unmute your mic? Yeah.
You know, Brian, I thought I made a mistake once, but I was wrong.
Yeah, right. Same here. Right. Okay, so here we are. We are sitting on taxiway Bravo. I got my iPad shared. Now I'm paranoid that I'm not sharing. So we're sitting on Bravo. Let's close this out. The blue dot is us, and my son John is going to operate the X-plane for us. So, John, if you would, you're cleared to taxi via Bravo and Foxtrot. Hold short of 16 left. And so he'll start taxiing the airplane. I can go ahead at this point, turn on the instrument panel. And we'll be able to see our ground speed and whatever settings we have here, which are totally customizable. I don't think he's taxiing at 15 knots.
Approaching runway 16 left, 34 right.
We should have heard the...
He is the son of an airline captain.
Right. We should have heard the alert there, approaching the runway. You saw it pop up there. And so now I'm going to say, go ahead and cross 16 left, hold short of 16 right. And I think this is because I have it in Do Not Disturb. So let's fix that. I just want to see.
Entered runway 16 left, 34 right.
We're not getting the audio for some reason.
Approaching runway 16 right, 34 left.
Right, and 34 left. I'm not sure why we don't get audio. Okay, taxi, let's say line up and wait on runway 16 right, intersection Foxtrot. Now, what would normally happen is as it tells you you're entering the runway.
Entered runway 16 right, 34 left.
Right, distance remaining 6,000 feet or whatever it is. Right now, there's a glitch with, we're banking on our glitches too many times with X-plane communicating and giving that. For some reason, ForeFlight's not doing it. That feature is still there. It will tell you the runway remaining. And at this point, you could also measure it if you wanted to from the blue dot to the end of the runway, approximately 5,608 feet. So let's just go ahead and start flying and see what happens. He's going to go ahead and fly this route, and he's going to level off and cross Silex at 2,500 feet. So cleared for takeoff. And we'll watch how the airplane works in flight. You can see the ground speed changing. I believe I've got the glide ring turned on. You can see altitudes below 200, so the glide doesn't show up. But as soon as the aircraft lifts off, and there's been a slight delay in the altitude. If you want to see what he's doing and you have an AHRS, you can actually turn on your synthetic vision and see what's happening on that. So we just took off.
Tap that bullseye in the upper right corner there, Brian, and recenter the map on your position. Yeah, there you go. Cool.
And so that's what Mike was talking about up here. This button up top here to center the map, and it's locked on my position. When you notice when I did that, the north compass button here showed up. So I'm going to tap that again. You can see north is up right now. I can tap on this north up and it changes to track up. So whichever way we're heading is up. Some people prefer that when they're flying, but not when they're planning the flight. And since everything's upside down on the sectional right here while we're flying south, this is an opportunity to show you if we change to the aeronautical chart and not the sectional chart, the symbols and numbers are right side up. And I can put terrain on here, and I can put VORs and airways and intersections and airspace information. And you can really clutter it up. I can put highways, because remember we were going to follow the highways. And I can zoom back in. Now you can see the glide ring showing up. That glide ring is based on a ratio of 8.5 to 1. I've made it a little conservative. I've tested this and it works really well. You can see that where the hills and the terrain goes higher to our left, we can't glide as far. Where it's flat off to the right, we can glide further. And if we had a good considerable wind here, this would be oblong toward the downwind side, because you could obviously glide further. And as we're trekking away westbound here, he's going to make a right turn at that freeway intersection. And look at the hazard advisor. As we get to be 1,000 feet above the ground, it turns from yellow to green. We can set what it's going to tell us is yellow and what is red, but basically at our altitude and above is red. And you can actually pan on this and look to the side to side. You can look at the synthetic vision. I'm looking off to the left as indicated by this circle here. Then a 5-second timer starts, and when that time is up, boom, it snaps back to straight ahead. Just another interesting feature. So we've got terrain off to the left side of us. As you can see the glide ring here, we got a good arc here. It's flat to the right. On the left, we have the terrain. So if I look off to the left, well, there it is. You can see that terrain when the timer's up. If you don't want to wait for the timer, you can just tap on this circle and it'll snap right back to straight ahead. Now, bear in mind, this is getting information from the AHRS. This is a simulated AHRS, and it's giving you GPS altitude. And look at this note, exited Van Nuys Class D airspace. That's a handy feature to know. If I hit airspace, you'll see, look at that. Sure enough, we did. Also the Class Charlie, as we're climbing up into it, I think there was a warning that said 500 feet above you is Class Charlie airspace. So that's something else. But this is a GPS altitude. It says it right here. This is ground speed. That's all GPS can give you. It doesn't have air data. But I understand Avionics is working on a link with ForeFlight to link, and some other manufacturers maybe as well, the air data fed to their instruments and send it via Wi-Fi to ForeFlight. I know that that's in process right now. They're working on that so that what you'll get here is indicated altitude and your indicated airspeed instead of ground speed and GPS altitude. The rate of descent is being, or climb is being calculated right here by the change of the GPS altitude, not by a change in static pressure measured by the static port. Notice the tracks behind you, your legs behind you turn orange. You've already flown those. Your active leg turns purple. We're going to cross Silex at 2,500. You can see we've got that little note there as well. We have no wind in here right now, but when we do some more advanced stuff with this, we'll throw the wind in there as well. And that'll show some other neat features. Another thing you can throw on here that's kind of handy, and I'm sure you've seen them, is the distance ring. So we can go to the quick settings tab here and scroll down to where we see the distance rings, and I've got them turned off along with extended center lines. If I make Van Nuys in view here, I can go back to settings, turn on extended center lines right here, and you'll see them show up. I'll toggle them. And I can clean up this airspace a little bit here and make it not so busy. And you can see the extended center lines. Back to the settings, I talked about distance rings. You can toggle them on and off here. Own ship distance rings. I'm going to turn that on, and look at that. This is set for what I have it set for is 4 miles and 10 miles, but there are different settings on that. There's a 25 nautical mile ring. Notice it's 5, 10, and 25. Then it changes 4 miles, 2 miles, 10 miles. Well, those settings are in the settings. So click on more and then settings and then filter distance rings. And own ship distance rings style. I have it automatic in nautical miles. You can have fixed distances or fixed time. You can have 5, 10, 30 minutes from now. There's many options for what those rings actually tell you. I have it set to automatic right now. Look what's happening to the terrain here. Again, my audio is not working on the iPad for some reason.
500.
Look at that. We're 500 AGL. It's giving us that. Look at the glide ring. I would say, Jonathan, that you need to climb. So let's just go ahead and start a climb right now. Climb and maintain 10,500 feet. Get on our cruise altitude. So obviously that's something I had him do on purpose. I said, I want you to forget to climb and watch what happens here. Look, as we approach this valley here, you can see the glide ring reaching out into the valley because the terrain is lower, and that's where you can actually glide to. And you can see the green off to the left there where that valley is. But we're going to keep climbing, and I'll show you.
How green is your valley, Brian?
In Texas right now, if you've got anything green, you're paying a lot for water.
Yeah.
While we're watching John do his climb here, again, it's a style thing that people like or don't like. I personally prefer time on the distance rings.
And I can understand that. Where am I going to be in X amount of time from right now? So let's just see what that looks like. We'll go to settings. We have distance rings and styles, and we'll put it on automatic based on our zoom level. Or we can do 5, 10, or 30 minutes from now. Let's just select that. We'll fix it at 5, 10, and 30 minutes. Go back and close the settings and turn the distance rings. We'll zoom out so we can see them. There's everything within 5 minutes. If I know I got a 5-minute bladder problem, I'm going to look for an airport within that radius. A 10-minute bladder problem, I want an airport within that radius. So you can see the distance rings that are there. Another really cool feature is the flight path vector. You can turn that on and see where are you going to be in X amount of time. And let's turn that on. The track vector is turned on, and that's why you can see it ahead of the aircraft. It's that blue line. So if I tell Jonathan to turn left 10 degrees, watch what happens to the track vector, which is the blue line ahead of the airplane. So turn left or right, just turn 10 degrees left or right, and watch the track vector as it changes. Now I have a pretty, I can hear the joke starting. I'm not even going to say it. My track vector can be adjusted. So I'm going to go ahead and go to settings, and we'll look at that as well. So where am I going to be with the track of the airplane in 30 seconds from now? Well, let's go to settings and clear this filter and type track vector. There it is, vector length. I've only got 30 seconds selected, but if I select 2 minutes, so I want to see what a 2-minute turn looks like, we'll close the settings, and now you can see the track vector going out 2 minutes from now. So if you turn left 30 degrees, Jonathan, we'll see what it looks like in a left standard rate turn. 30 seconds from now, it shows you where you'll be, and you can see some airplanes, they call this the noodle. And it is getting, I don't know why it's getting shorter, but maybe it's because it's terrain. I don't know. Anyway, you're cleared to proceed on course at this point. And you can see here's our flight path as we had planned it. The direct route would not have been a very good one here. Also, we've got some TFRs. Very important. I just want to stress, I always leave that on. Obviously, there's something going on right here. I see a TFR. And what is it? It's a safe environment for firefighting aviation operations. And that's in that area up to 10,000, surface to 10,000 feet there. obviously something you'd want to be aware of. And those can pop up at any time, obviously, with fires that can start. So I'm going to close that. I'm going to push this button right up here that puts me back to my current location. After you've been messing around on the chart for a while, you're like, oh, where am I? Just push this button right here, and it'll center up on your location. And then, of course, you can use your zoom button here rather than pinching and zooming. Another thing you can do if you have the synthetic vision is go full screen with it. And it's surprisingly accurate. I'll put that back there. I'm going to turn this back off. We're just going to watch ourselves fly. And I'm going to put the sectional chart back on. We're going north. So I'll put the sectional back on and north up by selecting this right here. That's north up. That way I can see I am still going northwest bound. Again, some people like track up, and that's just going to keep your current track going straight up on the map. Either way, it's your preference. And then you can zoom in and out on yourself from that point, and you can see as long as this is highlighted blue up here, it's centered on your position. Some other handy things to be aware of on here while it's flying along, you can see I've got Zulu time set here because I don't like doing math and calculating, and when I talk to ATC or here in ATIS, I like Zulu time there. Here's the estimated time en route to destination, my current ground speed. This is a handy one, descent to destination. It's the rate of descent I would need to fly right now to reach the field elevation at my destination. So if you watch this and just when it says 500 feet per minute, you could start a comfortable descent to your destination at 500 feet a minute, and it kind of helps you find your top of descent point. Here's my current track, 330 magnetic. I don't really care about that, except I can click on this leg and see that, well, this course is 330 magnetic. My track is 330, 329. You can kind of get an idea what the winds are at that point, or what your crab angle is. But I don't want that there. We could put some other fun stuff there. So I'm going to tap and hold where it says track, and then I get all the choices of what I can change that to. Let's say I want it, cross-track error, or the next course I want to fly. So I'm going to turn to that heading and correct for wind, or the nearest nav aid, or estimated time en route to the destination, you can see is already shown. ETA to destination is kind of nice, estimated time of arrival, or you can see what I have here is estimated time en route to destination. So I can choose ETA to destination, and when everybody asks, well, what time are we going to get there? We're going to get there at 10 p.m. Also, on that note, what I forgot to mention is after we took off, we could open our VFR flight plan. Well, I happen to have cellular data that works over here at, what altitude are we at? 6,600 feet and climbing. Well, if we go to the flights tab again, sorry, I know I've had people complain about how I'm all over the place with the mouse, but that's how my brain is searching, and the mouse is following my eyeballs. So apologize for that. Let's click out of the nav log. Look here, we've got cancel, amend, and activate. Well, when we took off, we could have had activate the flight plan, or we could hit it right before the takeoff when we get our takeoff clearance or something like that. And that would open our VFR flight plan. And then once you do that, you will have the option to close your VFR flight plan right here. And that kind of makes a case for having cellular service, because you get to an airport, you park on the ramp, and you close your flight plan right there. Otherwise, you need to have a Wi-Fi connection. Now, certainly if you have an iPhone capable of creating a hotspot, you could do that, connect your iPad to it, and then click close the VFR flight plan, which will be an option here after you activate it. But I'm not going to activate it at this point. But while I'm here, I will go ahead and cancel it so that everybody's not thinking I'm going to open a flight plan. Not that anybody would. Cancel, yes, cancel it, and you'll see that those color buttons will go away. The flight plan is canceled. But
Brian,
yeah,
on flight plans, you might want to mention. Well, I'll do it since I'm suggesting it.
Go for it.
You get a text message back from ForeFlight on all of these events.
Right.
When you open, when you cancel, when you create it, when you open, when you cancel it. So that's a nice confirmation.
That's right. And so when I opened it, since we didn't open it or close it, we didn't get that. But I will show my camera full screen here. let's see if I can do this. Full screen camera. You can see the text message that I got. I did get the latest ATIS for Van Nuys. And again, you have to have the performance plan for that. And it has to be an airport that provides digital ATIS as well. In any event, good point. The text messaging is really nice. And you can also use your phone. You can open ForeFlight on your phone rather than connect your iPad to a hotspot. Just use your phone to open and close your flight plan, or close it after you land, as long as you have cellular service. Okay. We go back to the map and see how we're doing here.
And Brian, on that issue of opening in flight, I've seen this question pop up a couple of times tonight.
Yeah.
If you have your iPad connected to a Sentry, that's a Wi-Fi connection, and your iPad is trying to connect to the flight plan servers via Wi-Fi. So you have to disconnect from the Sentry and get cell data, or as others have said, just do it on your phone. Is a lot easier way to do it.
Right, and that's correct. So when you're connected to the Sentry's Wi-Fi network, there is no internet service. In fact, it'll tell you that. It'll say no internet right below there when you're connected to it. The Wi-Fi is simply a means for the phone or the iPad itself to talk to the Sentry to get the AHRS data. It's communicating over Wi-Fi instead of Bluetooth, but that doesn't mean you have internet. So that's correct. Absolutely. So use your cell phone is the easiest way. If you have an iPad, you should have an iPhone. It's a great backup for ForeFlight. Unfortunately, the Apple is the only platform on which ForeFlight works. So I know there are other apps out there that people will use, and if you don't want to have an iPad, or you want to have a tablet or an Android type device, there are a great one that I'm looking at now is iFly EFB, and it actually has some wonderful features, and we're going to talk about that later. I'll get into that, but if you have a non-Apple device, that's the kind of thing you're going to need. So let's see, I've talked about the track vector, the ATIS. When we get close to our destination, it'll show us the ATIS. You saw the 500-foot warning, and if I ask Jonathan to put it into a high rate of descent here, of course, approaching the mountains, or at any time, you'll get a warning on that as well. I won't ask him to do that at this time, but you will say sink rate, a warning that will show up on there. All of those alerts, again, if I go to documents and actually on the flight, I saved the document. Remember that? I saved this. Well, it's not there. Oh, it's on this flight. Let's go back to two files, and it was the ForeFlight features document that I had on there. The hazard alerts, all the alerts, you pretty much need to have. I'm trying to see which plan it is. I'm looking it up because I don't know as I sit here. The hazard alerts and advisor internet traffic, you'll get that on basic. But the hazard alerts, you need to have the Pro Plus. These hazard alerts, Pro Plus are better. So you need the Pro or the Performance to get that. And where was I going next? Let's go back to the map. So I discussed how you can change these, you can customize them. Also, if you have your iPad oriented vertically, you'll see that you don't have as many options for choices down there on what they call the instrument panel, which you can turn on and off with this button up here. Well, that's really tough to do when it's turned. But back to horizontal, you have many more options. And the same thing is true on the iPhone. When it's horizontal in landscape, there are more options here. And you can choose which ones you have each time. So if you want different options, you want more than exist here, you can choose different ones when it's vertical instead of horizontal. Another nice feature that came up in one of our workshops was, how do I get the nearest barometric? Well, right here, it's showing the nearest barometric pressure coming from Whiteman Airport at 30.02. And as we get closer to another towered airport, it'll show you their barometric pressure right here. It's their altimeter setting, not necessarily their barometric pressure. It's the altimeter setting for that airport, which is going to be handy as you're flying across country. Also, what I have right here, this is the nearest airport. We are 8.6 miles south of an airport called CL46. So if I've typed up here, D space CL46, you can see there's an 8-mile direct to CL46. And if I select it, there it is. There's a route to the nearest airport. That's kind of a nice emergency feature that, hey, I've got a cockpit fire or smoke or something, that medical issue, whatever, I need to get on the ground right now. Nearest piece of pavement runway is going to be right there. If you want it to be a runway, you can see is right here. So this is nearest airport. And it shows your relative position. That's a handy feature as well. And that'll change, obviously, as you fly along. Sometimes you'll notice that your GPS altitude is different from your indicated altitude. And that kind of goes along with the high to low, hot to cold, look out below. So if it's colder than standard, your indicated will be lower than the GPS altitude. And when it's hotter than standard, your indicated will actually be lower, will be higher than the GPS altitude. So you'll really be lower when it's colder. So your
Also,
GPS, yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Also, the non-WAS, and this is, ForeFlight is definitely non-WAS. So the non-WAS is doing some really complicated stuff based on satellite positions.
Yeah.
And it's nice to use. That's kind of why I like in the non-pressurized airplane, using the Sentry and getting the barrel.
Right. Well, I just wanted to, yeah, go ahead.
Brian, another question, I've seen this a couple times here, is how does the AHARS on X-Plane compare to AHARS on Sentry? With this setup, is it using its GPS position to derive the when you bring up the attitude display?
No, it's got a simulated AHARS. So the way X-Plane works is it's sending the attitude and heading information from the airplane in the software to ForeFlight. So you can see it here on this. It's a simulation of an AHARS. Whereas how does it compare to a Sentry? It's very close. It's very similar. The Sentry actually was a little bit more instantaneous than this. The new one is. The older one was a little bit slower. But certainly good enough to fly with in an emergency situation if you had to.
Yeah, and I'll note the other thing is, even if you don't have a Sentry or some kind of a similar type device with an AHARS in it, ForeFlight will derive that data from successive GPS positions. So it'll give you that information, just not nearly as accurately and smoothly and precisely as an AHARS equipped external device will.
Right, and I've found that AHARS devices and external GPSs work much better, and you get a lot more information, obviously. But you're right, ForeFlight will estimate and derive that. One thing I wanted to show, I put that emergency direct to CL46, but I want to put my flight plan back in there. Well, that's where you would just go to the flight plan and look at the recents under, you got favorites and recents button right up here. And I can actually put in, if I look at recents, I can see one of my last legs, or I just go to favorites, and the one that I saved, the full flight plan, is right here. I saved one with Silex and then one with everything on it. So I'm going to select this one that I saved, and it's going to put it in there. A little bit of a problem though. If you look, it's still wanting me to fly the first leg. We've already done that. So now that I've reloaded the flight plan, I want the legs behind me to be orange, legs ahead of me, the one I'm on, to be purple. So all I got to do is tap the one that I'm on and say fly leg. And boom, that leg is now purple. You can see the HSI snap to where it should be. We're on course, and the previous legs are orange. And as we go back up here, the next legs are blue. Any other questions? There's so much more we can do with this in flight. We can show how to fly approaches. We can practice approaches. We can do a great deal of orienting. And we'll do that. And I'll show on a future workshop how to hook it up to X-Plane. But in a nutshell, if you click on more in devices, basically X-Plane is just one of the devices you'll see here. You see I've got my Sentry here. You've got X-Plane, and it's connected. And as long as you're on the same network, internet network, like here in my home network, X-Plane is on the same internet network as my iPad, so it sees X-Plane. And Mike and I have done ForeFlight workshops in person before, where we had everybody in the room hooked up to the X-plane simulator, and we could demonstrate quite a bit of stuff. And it was always fun to see or hear the audible warnings going off on 50 to 100 iPads at once.
Yeah, it was hilarious. True. So one question here, Jim is asking, is the rain check a Performance Pro feature, or is that available in lower versions as well? And I didn't see that specifically called out on the plans and pricing chart.
Yeah, that's a good question. So let's look at that real quick. It's not on here. You looked on here?
I looked in there and I didn't recognize it as such.
And I'm looking in the user's guide right now.
So here's the user's guide where Bob is looking, and in the back, let's see, where is it? The features, plan comparison. So here's everything.
There you go. That's a better place to look than I'm looking.
That's all right. What were we talking about again?
Frame check.
Who's old as dirt? The RAIM check. So maybe it won't be here, but it might be in the description of it. So I like to have the PDF open and hit Control F, type RAIM.
That's what I'm doing.
And see where it shows up in here.
And by the way, a couple of questions are coming in about, are we really going to fly this thing all the way up to Silver Springs? Or Carol was just asking, tell me we're not going to be here till 10 o'clock.
No, we're going to be here till 9:33 p.m. It says ETA destination 9:33 p.m.
There you go.
No, we're obviously not going to fly all the way up there. I'm finished with the presentation portion of tonight. At this point, I'd just like to take questions. And at this point, because we've gone this long, I will say, if you're watching the recording of this presentation, you will see some instructions on how to get Wings credit for it. But I do thank everybody.
And I will say, based on what I'm reading, I got a feeling RAIM check is in all versions of the plan.
I would think so. That's kind of an important thing. Usually the required important things are available to everybody, and it doesn't say in here anything about which plan. So I would think that it is available.
Yeah, if it's not showing up in that nav log, my guess is that it maybe you're looking at it without a live internet connection.
And maybe
perhaps.
I don't know how you'd get it without internet, but maybe you're going to an airport without GPS approach, or
no, because they're going to be doing a terminal RAIM check or an in-route RAIM check as well.
Yeah.
So,
okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So, want some giveaway names?
Yeah, let's do the giveaways.
They are in that document.
Let's see if I can get to that.
Yeah, some people are starting to sign off, so
we don't want to do that. Let's
be
do
here
the
to
giveaways
win.
then. That way everybody can feel comfortable leaving and knowing that they didn't win.
Right.
All right. First thing we have is 2 Gold Seal lifetime ground school memberships. It's a lifetime membership, and you can choose the private pilot or the instrument pilot. And the first one is... Did you choose names yet, or are you working on that?
Yes, I did. Janet Hamilton.
I'll say that one more time.
Janet Hamilton.
Janet Hamilton, congratulations. You'll have a secret password that you'll go through and choose which one you want, or you can, if you don't need it and you have a student or know someone else who does, you can pass it along. You'll get a password when you check out that will make this $300 value free, and you can choose private or instrument. And our second winner of the Gold Seal ground school, by the way, my son just took the instrument course. It's fantastic. From a teaching standpoint, their courses are revolutionary, and the graphics are amazing. And they've allowed me to use some of their graphics in some of my presentations, which is I'm forever grateful for. So they're wonderful.
Yeah, I probably recommended that to at least a half a dozen people at Oshkosh last week. There.
Good.
It's an amazing program.
Good deal. Yeah.
And the second winner is Derek Hotchkin.
Derek Hotchkin. All right, congratulations. We'll pass on some instructions to you to the email address with which you registered for this program. The next prize we're giving away is a 1-year NAFI membership. And if you already have it, this will tack on a year to your current membership. So who won a 1-year NAFI membership?
And this one was won by Rob Dell, who was, when you click to open the program tonight, his was the first name in. He was the first one sliding in the door at the head of that just mob of humanity trying to get into this program tonight.
Awesome.
So he's been here the longest.
Well, you'll get another year added to your membership, or if you're not a member, you will get a free membership, and that'll entitle you to 33% off of your ForeFlight subscription. So if you're a NAFI member, just make sure ForeFlight and NAFI have the same email address, and you'll automatically get that 33% discount. Let's see, we did that one. And here's just an example. There's a picture of my invoice. I left this in here from last month, but I pay for the Performance Plus and United States and Canada JEPs, and that saves me quite a bit of money. Okay, now let's do a drawing for an Ultimate Pilot Logbook. This
Do I get
again.
Canada JEPs on mine too? I didn't know that.
You probably do.
Okay. Pilot Logbook was won by, this name is familiar to me, Mark Boguski.
Oh yeah.
All right, Mark.
One of our super volunteers at Oshkosh.
Oh, cool. Okay, that's where I heard that name before.
And a super flight instructor
Mark,
as well.
if you're still here, for the record, you're way too lucky. That's all I'll say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's a
For
good
sure.
logbook, and we'll give one of these away during each workshop as well. So we'll get that shipped off to Mark as well. Actually, we'll have Ultimate Pilot Logbook.
Does that include the service of updating it? I'm only about 5 years behind in mine.
Yeah, I think I'm only 4 years behind. And I have two. I have my electronic version. I have in ForeFlight I'm using, and then I also have my big logbook books. All right, what else have we got? ASA donated a backpack, their pilot aviation backpack. That's their website, ASA to Fly. They graciously donated this. I took a look at this at Oshkosh. It's a pretty cool backpack and fits pretty much everything you'd want to put in it. So who won the ASA backpack?
The ASA backpack was won by Barry Ballinger.
All right, congratulations, Barry. We will put you in touch with ASA and they will ship you the backpack. And lastly, a set of Flying Eyes sunglasses. They're the Kestrel Aviator in matte black with gradient gray. Our winner is Brian Schiff. I'm just kidding. I've got them right here. I'll just go full screen camera. You can see my messy office, but I wanted to show you. These are they right here. They're really sharp looking, and you can see that they're flat on the side here, so that when you put it against your temple and put your headsets on, you don't even feel them. Really wonderful.
I have used Flying Eyes glasses for at least 5 years now, maybe more like 8 years. I love them.
Yeah, same
They're
here.
non-polarized. I get the gradient tint with the cheaters built in the bottom. They're amazing sunglasses.
Yeah, and the ones depicted here have the cheaters you can see at the bottom of the screen right there.
Yep.
So anyway, if you want to buy your own pair and you're not the one who wins, you can use, we got a coupon code for that as well, FFWS, and I think that gives you, I think it's 10% off. It might be more. I won't commit to that. I don't remember, but they offered a discount to anybody watching our seminar. So use that discount code when you check out if you buy any of their sunglasses. So who won it?
And Dean was doing a good job hiding at Oshkosh. I went by his tent virtually every day and I never saw him.
Dean Syracuse, yeah.
But these were won by Jane Geddes.
Yep. And a shout out to her. She is another one of our super volunteers.
Oh, Jane, very good. Awesome.
Oh, cool.
Congratulations on that. So I think that there's a common theme here. If you volunteer to help at our NAFI tent, you stand a better chance of...
Your odds are better.
Yeah, no, you're actually, these are totally random. 100% random, the method that Mike is using to choose people. So that just worked out that way. So that's just great. That is all I have for tonight. Remember, our website is foreflightworkshops.com. I mean, there's so much to talk about. I could go on and on. I will try to update what we're going to talk about next month, which will be, again, 5 weeks from now on the second Monday of September. Also, if you're a flight instructor or you live in Lakeland, Florida, and you're not a flight instructor, please come on by. We're having a CFI Summit in Lakeland, Florida, October 24 through 26. I think that's all I got. Just remember, next month we're on September 11th, a day that will live in infamy, but that's the second Monday in September, and I will update you'll get an email to that effect when the emails go out from Zoom. So thank you, everybody, for joining. I appreciate it.